You've now come to an area surrounded by sandbanks and so on, south of the beach. This is where the Uig chessmen were found. And of them there are two stories. The story set down here among the sandbanks of who found them and where they went from here and where they're to be found to this day. And then higher up and looking to the south and to the hills, there is the folk tale, the local tradition of how in fact the chessmen came to be in Uig and in Lewis. Local folklore, of course, had its own version of how the chessmen found their way here. And for that we have to look southwards to the hills and to the marvellous valley among the hills called Bealach Rhönaskil. And past that there are deep sea lochs, Loch Hamnaway and Loch Challisvai. And the story has it that a herd boy called the Red Gilly was out there tending cattle, sheep, when he saw in one of the lochs a sailing ship becalmed. And he saw a small boat, a curragh, being put over the side and one person leave the ship and row ashore. And he noticed that he had a bag on his back. The man who'd come off the ship was walking towards where the Red Gilly was, and the Red Gilly met him, and they were able to speak to each other and understand each other. And the lad from the ship said that he had been treated very badly aboard ship, that they were a drunken, rough crew, and that they were all asleep, including the captain, who was worst of all, and that he wanted to come ashore and make his way, but to have something that would pay his way. He had taken certain items that were aboard and he had them in the bag. They started walking and rested. The Red Gilly thought it might be worth my while to get rid of this fellow, to get hold of what he has in the bag. And he took a stone, hit him on the head, and killed the fellow who'd come off the ship. Picked up the bag, noticed it was full of little items, walked north through the valley, down all the way here to beside the beach. And in the Bealach Ban, as it's called, the fair valley that's beside us, he buried his treasure. And then he went across the sands to Balnakeely and told his boss, who's supposed to be Big George Mackenzie, of the ship that was in the sea loch in the hills, and that they should go out there with a group of men and plunder it. And Mackenzie was so horrified that he sent the Red Gilly away, never to come within his sight again. Life got worse for the Red Gilly, and he's supposed to have done some terrible things and ended up being hanged on Gallows Hill in Stornoway. And he referred to the fact that he had buried treasure back in Uig, but nobody knew where he had buried it. Now, if it was George Mackenzie who was in Balnakeely then, that sets the story roughly around the early 1600s. So that was the oral tradition.